When I came back in the office, I was shocked to learn that this weekend, the biggest story, frenzied social media rumors speculating whether Donald Trump had died. For the record, Donald Trump is very much alive, okay? And no, we like our president.
And I think that they are going to be very surprised. I'm talking about the Trump people and the MAGA nation by what's going to happen on Tuesday. Not only do I feel, to answer your question 10 minutes later, that I feel the same way that I felt a few weeks ago that Trump is toast. Absolutely.
President Trump, a man who never tires of painting himself as untouchable, finds himself cornered by the sharp wit of Stephen Colbert and the relentless scrutiny of Michael Moore. The president imagines himself larger than life, but they expose how his empire is held together by fragile myths and inflated tales. Their roast doesn't just lampoon him, it dissects his every performance until the illusion shatters under the weight of ridicule.
Trump made the announcement during an Oval Office event yesterday where he added insult to invasion.
Chicago is a hellhole right now.
How dare you, sir? Chicago is not a hellhole right now. Chicago is not a hellhole until February. Then it is a sub-zero windswept vista of frozen Lake Michigan.
Colbert dives first slicing into President Trump's obsession with image. He reduces the grandeur to caricature, showing how constant bragging turns triumphs into parody. Every gesture of strength becomes a skit. Every attempt at gravitas morphs into a comedy routine waiting for a punchline. The president who thrives on spectacle suddenly is the spectacle.
Donald Trump is very much alive, and this whole crazy rumor started simply because he had 0 events on his schedule Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, and one of the only signs that he might still be around was music in the Rose Garden, which the White House confirmed was the president's music. Which I gotta say is not the strongest proof of...
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Moore joins the barrage with documentarian precision, tearing apart the mythology of President Trump's business empire. He reframes the story not as daring genius but as inherited safety nets and repeated bailouts. The skyscrapers bearing his name aren't monuments of brilliance but reminders of branding and reinvention. For Moore, the myth of triumph is less about success and more about marketing a persona that never matched reality.
Well, I think that the system has already been blown up for me. He has completely destroyed the Republican Party. In my film, John Boehner, the former Speaker of the House, Republican, said there is no Republican Party anymore. It's called the Trump Party. And there is really no Democratic Party anymore because the Democrats are completely impotent and incapable of getting some...
Colbert zeroes in on the chaos orbiting President Trump, mocking the revolving door of staffers as a sitcom where cast members are fired before the credits roll. Moore digs deeper, showing how the instability is less accident and more strategy chaos designed to avoid accountability. What was once painted as unconventional leadership is revealed as turbulence with no direction.
Yesterday, Trump also posted, "Chicago is the worst and most dangerous city in the world, by far." Worst and most dangerous? 2 words. You.
Moore presses, further pointing to President Trump's endless rallies. What are billed as moments of national unity become stand-up routines centered on self-applause. The chanting crowds, the exaggerated promises, the rehearsed grievances, Colbert reframes them as comedy festivals masquerading as politics. The spectacle was never about solutions. It was always about keeping the lights on stage and the applause meter high.
The way that what you just played here, I hadn't heard Trump utter those words. I'd heard somebody say that he said them, but to hear him say that about they can shoot through the media, the assassins, go ahead and fire, and all those other things you just played, it's like they really believe that the average normal American wants to hear.
Colbert drives into the consequences of performance politics. He reframes President Trump's speeches as deliberate noise, truth drowned beneath repetition, facts buried under exaggerations. Moore argues this isn't clumsiness but strategy. Overwhelm the narrative until truth itself becomes impossible to pin down.
Because yesterday, Donald Trump made a hard right onto the fascism freeway, announcing that he will deploy National Guard troops to Chicago. Our brave... Yes, boo. Our brave soldiers are not supposed to be wandering around...
Both destroyers converge on President Trump's war with the media. Colbert laughs at the contradiction. A man addicted to attention yet furious at coverage. He frames the constant brawls with journalists as the antics of someone who craves both adoration and enemies. Moore pushes further, showing how undermining reporters isn't just habit, it's a tactic to weaken oversight. Together, they reveal how Trump treats scrutiny not as a necessity of democracy but as a personal insult. Colbert then sharpens his edge against President Trump's claims of moral authority, mocking the gap between lofty declarations and the scandals that trail him. Moore amplifies this as a calculated gamble. Repeat virtue long enough and hope the echoes outlast the evidence.
Country, and to talk about immigrants in this vicious, vile way, where and you think of all the things that we have and we've given the world, and the anger and hatred toward Muslims and Arabs. Steve Jobs. I mean, this never gets discussed. Maybe I'm just a trivia nerd, but he's born of Muslim parents. His parents were Arab, and they put him up for adoption. They had to put him up for adoption, and was adopted by the Jobs family.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be talking to you maybe on this device right now in this way without this offspring of a Muslim.
President Trump's restless need for applause provides another opening. Colbert ridicules the late-night social media outbursts where grievances spill out like a diary in real time. Moore reframes them as compulsion. The man cannot stand silence, cannot bear irrelevance, and must insert himself into every conversation. Together they paint a portrait, not of a strongman but of a performer trapped on stage. Colbert wraps every flaw in humor sharp enough to sting, while Moore strips away the facade to reveal a hollow core. One voice laughs at absurdity, the other exposes manipulation. By the end, the illusion of invincibility is reduced to fragments, leaving only the spectacle of a man who can never escape his own act.
Trump is concerned with something he finds far more dangerous than disease.
Big ugly windmills, they ruin your neighborhood.
The windmills that don't work when you need them. The windmills are driving the whales crazy, obviously. Do you want to see a bird cemetery? Just go under a windmill.
You want to see a bird cemetery? You want to see a bird widow in her veil crying over the casket? An open casket. I don't know why they made that choice.
Colbert turns the spotlight to President Trump's obsession with legacy. He mocks the desperation for statues and textbook chapters as a quest for permanence in a world that only sees spectacle. The monuments Trump imagines are less triumphs than symbols of hubris destined to be studied as cautionary tales. Moore notes that history remembers patterns, and Trump's pattern is endless self-promotion disguised as governance. Colbert mocks his premature victory laps, where blunders are cloaked in exaggeration and minor steps sold as unmatched brilliance. He reframes it all as a magician performing tricks too obvious for anyone except the performer himself. Moore returns to the economy, showing how Trump's supposed brilliance relied on loopholes, bailouts, and rebranding failures as resilience. The skyscrapers and casinos become monuments of debt and overreach, not prosperity.
Oh, there's a fun little story from the Smile File. Donald Trump became the first former president to go on criminal trial. We'll get there. We got an idea. The official name of the trial is the people of the state of New York versus Donald Trump. The people of the state of New York? That's us. Okay, hold on. I know you're excited, but don't cheer too loud. We need you to get picked for jury duty.
Moore mocks President Trump's addiction to conflict, imagining him waking daily in search of fresh feuds, whether with politicians, athletes, or celebrities. Every quarrel becomes a battlefield. Colbert reframes it as a carnival, with Trump less a statesman and more a contestant in a shouting contest. Moore dismantles his approach to crises, natural disasters, economic shocks, global conflicts, arguing they were treated as staged press conferences rather than leadership. Instead of solutions, the public got chest thumping. Colbert adds that Trump's constant demand for praise reveals fragility, not strength. The White House becomes a comedy club where the president insists on headlining every night.
Oh, even more so. I just keep wondering the gift that the Trump campaign keeps giving us. I don't think they really are in touch with where the majority of Americans are at. The majority of Americans do not.
Colbert returns to governance, mocking how President Trump blurred the line between leadership and branding. Policies rolled out like ad campaign slogans swapped for substance and photo ops replacing progress. Moore reframes the presidency as a stage for one-man show. The outsider who vowed to topple elites leaned on them at every turn. The rebellion against the establishment looks less like revolution and more like redecorating loud wallpaper over the same old walls. Colbert mocks every press conference as a one-night special. Headlines mattered more than results, and the show never ended because the content never mattered. Moore zooms out, calling Trump not a leader who shaped history but a performer who hijacked it. For him, this is not legacy, it's a warning. Colbert closes with laughter sharper than applause, reframing Trump's presidency as the longest-running sketch comedy where the star never realized the joke was on him.
Trump has hated windmills. Trump has hated windmills ever since 2011 when he unsuccessfully tried to stop an offshore wind farm from being built near one of his Scottish golf courses. Now he's taking his revenge. This week, the White House ordered its agencies to escalate the fight against offshore wind.
Yes, the fight against wind has begun. Mimes of America, assemble.
Together, Colbert and Moore deliver not just a roast but a demolition. One wields humor like a scalpel, the other analysis like a hammer, and together they dismantle the myth of President Trump piece by piece. Colbert ridicules his habit of turning grudges into national talking points, reframing private resentment as public responsibility. Moore dissects the theatrical policymaking, grand declarations fading before implementation, substance eclipsed by spectacle. Colbert mocks Trump's addiction to superlatives, the greatest, the biggest, the best, until the exaggerations collapse under their own weight. Moore warns how this hunger for applause corroded institutions and left allies wary. What remains is not the towering figure Trump envisioned, but the spectacle of a man addicted to performance, forever chasing applause that vanishes the moment the lights go down.